Good morning, dear students. This video lesson is a continuation of the previous session on the loneliness of the long distance runner by Alan Sillitoe. In this video lesson, we are trying to find out how this short novel or novella by Alan Sillitoe becomes a protest novel. Alan Sillitoe belongs to a group of writers who tried to take an anti-establishment or outlaw stand, especially to highlight the life of the working class. The works of these writers were turned to successful films too. The other writers in the group were John Brain, John Wayne, Keith Waterhouse, Sam Borstal, etc. The same concern for the working class was gaining ground in the theatre too. Harold Pinter, Arnold Wesker, and John Osborne belonged to this group of playwrights. They were together called as the angry young men of the 1950s. They expressed scorn and disaffection with the established socio-political order of their country. Their impatience and resentment were especially aroused by what they perceived as the hypocrisy and mediocrity of the upper and middle classes. Like John Osborne, Alan Sillitoe burst onto the literary scene in the 1950s, writing about the harsh realities of the working class. He was a key figure in the angry young men movement with novels like Saturday Night and Sunday Morning and The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner. Alan Sillitoe grew up in the working class, and although his success as a writer provided an escape from that background, an indelibility of working class consciousness and memory pervade in his writings. Sillitoe's writing clearly demonstrated the same anger and disdain against British social order that was common among other writers of the 50s. His novels also contained a working class hero who promoted masculinity and showed hostility towards the restrictions of social norms in Britain. This kind of a hero, as mentioned previously, was a key characteristic feature found in many different mediums during the angry young men movement. They share little in common with the radiant literary heroes before them. Smith, in Sillitoe's The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, is an example of this kind of anti-hero, as throughout the short story, the reader finds himself sympathetic towards Smith's actions, despite the fact that they are not the typical kind of actions we look for in a hero in modern-day movies and literature. Smith is the embodiment of the angry young men idea of social resistance and reform. After being sent to a Borstal in Essex after stealing money from a baker, Smith uses running as a way to protest against the manipulation of institutions and undermine authority figures. He is told that athletics is used in Borstal to reform wayward young working class men to accept appropriate societal goals. But it becomes obvious that Smith is thought more of as a racehorse that will bring glory to the Borstal governor from winning the Borstal Blue Ribbon Prize Cup for long distance cross-country running. Smith uses running as a way to escape the conditions of the Borstal and also to reflect on the society that he lives, which is comprised of a very strict class structure. Although he is unsatisfied with his life in the working class, he shows no inclination to shake his social status and instead demonstrates a sense of belonging which seems to be a mixture of both loyalty and suffocation. He is aware of the hardships of the working class and does not exactly enjoy being a part of it, but has the them versus us morality that was common among the angry young men generation and is also shown in Look Back in Anger with Jimmy Potter. When Smith's family receives a pension money after his father's death, they enjoy a temporary escape from working class conditions. Smith says, I had never known a family as happy as ours was in that couple of months when we had got all the money we needed. Although Smith wants to escape from the poverty of the working class, the sense of belonging and loyalty that he feels persuades him to take revenge on the upper class, therefore overpowering any desire to climb the social ladder. This idea is further shown when Smith says, I haven't finished making all my false moves yet, and I dare say I won't until I kick the bucket. He is able to temporarily escape from the working class not through climbing the social ladder but through a sort of vacation by going to Borstal and through running. Running isolates him from the world and allows him to better understand British class divisions and the hypocrisy of higher classes and authority. He says, and this long distance running lark is the best of all, because it makes me think so good that I learn things even better than when I am on my bed at night. During the race, running loses its symbolic meaning and becomes a way for Smith to rebel against the institutional manipulation of the British working class. With the working class having a strong sense of class comradeship and a shared resentment towards those who mistreat them, he associates all forms of authority as exploitative as a result. For example, when the cop continually questions him about where the money is, he resists the cop's language and teases him as a way of defying authority, especially a police officer whose purpose is to enforce social norms. Therefore, by defying authority, Smith is in turn revolting against fundamental British ideals. Smith stops running so close to the finishing point and wins his battle against the Borstal governor, who represents the forces of the establishment and the fundamental British ideals. He purposely loses the race as a protest against the mistreatment of the working class in British society for the gain of the upper classes. He says, I will show him what honesty means if it's the last thing I do, though I am sure he will never understand, because if he and all them like him did it, it would mean they would be on my side, which is impossible. By saying this, it further demonstrates the extreme class distinctions in British society, as the upper class does not show any remorse for the working class and continues to attempt to control them. He also suggests that he will continue defying authority and British social norms when he says, if I hadn't raced my race, I wouldn't have got this pleurisy, which keeps me out of khaki but doesn't stop me doing the sort of work my itchy fingers want to do. By standing up against the governor and throwing the race, he kept himself out of being enlisted in the army and therefore going against the nationalistic idea of fighting for the love of the Queen and the country, which is a fundamental British ideal. He may have been stuck with 6 months of scrubbing floors, but it was better than giving the governor the glory he desired or serving the army. So, by all means, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner is a protest novel which revolts against all the prevailing social norms and the middle class hypocrisy. That's the end of this session. Thank you.